Guess who got brands talking? Brandlive.co.za. Guess who got brands talking? Brandlive.co.za.
Good morning. Welcome to our show, Shapeshifter, brought to you by the SAC PCMP. I am Yuvan Gandon, and I want to give you a quick update on SAC PCMP developments and news. And the big thing is our conference, which happens at Gallagher Convention Center on the 29th to 31st October. It's gonna be an exciting conference, and we listen to you, especially the students. Students have been telling us that we seem to be neglecting them. And what we've done is we've created a student panel, and we've got a youngster, Ronnie Sepika, who will moderate this panel and ask the students about their studies, how relevant their studies are, and what benefit they're deriving. So that's an interesting topic at conference, apart from the other topics that we have at conference. We have two guests with us today. We have Thabo Masumbuka, who is not in studio. He'll join us on telephone. He's the CEO of the Construction Sector Charter Council. And in studio, we have Mr. Gregory Mofokeng. He's from the Black Business Council for the Built Environment. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good morning to your listeners.
Thank you. Let's start with you, Gregory. The Black Business Council for the Built Environment. Can you give us a little bit of background as to what your council does and what the latest developments are?
Thank you very much, Yuvan, and once again, good morning to the listeners. Well, the Black Business Council in the Built Environment, the acronym is BBCBE, essentially is a business chamber. We were established 11 years ago, and our role basically is to represent the interest of business people in the built environment. We are affiliated to the Black Business Council, which is our mother body. And as far as the coverage is concerned, we look after all the built environment professionals, meaning your typical professionals registered by the SAC PCMP, your construction project managers, your health and safety managers, officers, and so on. And we also look after architects, engineers, quantity surveyors, and so on. We also look after core contractors, as well as material suppliers and manufacturers. So that's basically our coverage as the BBCB. We are a business chamber, meaning that we lobby on behalf of our members. So we do quite a lot of work in terms of ensuring, for instance, that procurement policies, are in place, and they obviously are, in favor of our members who are largely previously disadvantaged. So we get involved in, programs such as introducing one of the laws that will be coming into place very soon, which is the public procurement policy that will replace the triple PFA, which is the current law that government uses, to procure goods and services. We also look at things like the CIDB, the Construction Industry Development Board. We lobby quite hard there, so to ensure that the environment generally is conducive for our members to trade. So as you know, the CIDB affects mostly contractors. We do a lot of work there. We also do a lot of work with councils like SAC PCMP, EXA, and so on and so forth. So we do quite a lot of work in terms of lobbying government and other institutions that play a regulatory role in the construction industry to ensure that at the end of the day we create an environment that is conducive for our members to thrive and run sustainable businesses.
Oh, that sounds interesting. Looks like some interesting developments there. I'll talk to you about it a little more just now. Thabo, can you please tell me what the Construction Sector Charter Council does and what the latest developments in your council are?
Thank you. The Construction Sector Charter Council is an industry executive body and authority responsible for the Gazette of a Construction Sector Code, which is a framework for transformation and empowerment in the sector. We are made up of various industry players and affiliates whose responsibility it is to facilitate the growth and economic participation of various sectors. We liaise and report with the Department of Public Works and the DTI, but we are mainly responsible for facilitating the achievement and the attainment of the strategic objectives outlined in the Construction Sector Code.
Yes, that sounds interesting. And I see lots of overlaps between yourselves and the BBCBE. Do you talk to each other often?
Correct. The BBCBE, through its different affiliates, such as your SAPTACO, such as your SAWIC, South African Women in Construction, such as your NAFCO, does sit in the Construction Charter Council. They are the signatory bodies there, which means that they've undertaken and committed to make sure that the objectives and the targets that are set out in this construction sector code are achieved. So they facilitate the participation of their members who are different businesses in the form of professionals and in the form of contractors to make sure that the targets and objectives set out in the construction sector code are achieved. You must remember even that the importance of such a framework enables government bodies, client bodies, to know that they can measure for the purpose of their procurement. They can use this instrument to measure the adjudication of projects, so that we, over a period of time, when we review, we can then say whether or not this industry is transforming or changing.
Very interesting. And Gregory, just like Thabo says, your key focus would be transformation. Thus far, what have you seen in terms of transformation? Has the sector changed, or is it still the same, or is it changing rapidly? What is the change like currently?
Well, the impression that we have, looking at the data that, for instance, the CSCC produces, the CIDB produces, that change is happening, but we are not happy with the pace of that change, and so when one looks overall as to where the significant beneficiaries of the industries are, we still see them as those that were previously advantaged. So your big companies continue to do quite a lot of work. They continue to generate a lot of revenue from government and the private sector. So from where we are sitting, transformation is happening, but the pace is definitely worrying. And obviously we are working together with the CSCC to ensure that we do bring into place legislation, policies that will hasten that pace. And as Thabo has just mentioned, we've just gazetted the recent codes that are aligned to the generic codes, and we are hoping that through the recently gazetted codes we'll be able to hasten that pace of transformation. So we are not happy with the pace of transformation. However, we are doing what is within our purview, together with other organizations through structures such as the CSCC, to ensure that we can hasten that pace.
Okay, so the way to hasten this pace is to work with the CSCC.
Most definitely, the CSCC is but one instrument, I must hasten to say, and that as Thabo said, is the executive authority to ensure that there are codes in place and they monitor and evaluate what is happening. But you will also appreciate the fact that the CSCC does not dish out projects, so we then have to look at the client bodies and look at what they are doing to ensure that projects are awarded to emerging and previously owned enterprises. So there's a lot of work that we also do, focusing on that aspect of ensuring that work opportunities, project opportunities are given, to companies that are previously disadvantaged, to ensure that transformation does happen and that they are given an opportunity not only to enter the market but also to drive sustainable businesses in the market. And obviously there are other aspects of that, including things like empowerment of women, empowerment of youth, and so on and so forth. So those are all the areas that we look at to ensure that transformation happens broadly within the industry, and everybody has got a role to play. The CSCC has got a role to put in place policies to ensure that transformation does happen, and other players such as public sector clients will have to do what they have to do to ensure that transformation happens broadly.
Thank you. Thabo, have you heard that? What is the CSCC doing to accelerate the pace of transformation? You serve on the SACP-CMP Transformation Committee as well. What can you do as a body?
Correct. What the CSCC does as an industry executive authority is to then compile the necessary intelligence and data regarding the performance of the industry. Does that by liaising with verification agencies to get the correct information and data regarding the measurement of the industry. We released the baseline report, the first of its kind in 2014 April, we discovered that a lot of industry measured entities do not report. If they do report, they do not report properly. So one of the things that CSCC does is to facilitate the correctness of the data. That's the first thing. Secondly, it does facilitate the management of the targets by talking to various industry client bodies, such as your SANRAL, such as your ESCO, process, those that are the custodian of infrastructure projects, and influence the direction of empowerment and transformation, ensuring that they do use the correct measurement principles. Because we're implementing agents, so we are there to facilitate and influence the performance of transformation and empowerment. It is the industry, it is the measured entities, it is the client bodies that must implement this. We are there to facilitate the guidance, facilitate the achievement, and ensure that we become the treasure group. That ensures that this information. By the way, we also talk to the Department of Public Works.
Okay.
Who's a government? Who's a family of agencies such as your council and your departments must also enforce transformation using government procurement labor.
You do play an important role, and Gregory mentioned two groups, and I want to just ask you about your take on this. The two groups were women and youth. Is that a focus of your charter, your council as well?
Correct.
What programs are in place to develop women and youth in the industry?
The codes are very clear, they are ambiguous. What they say is that at all relevant times, when measured entities are being measured, they must ensure that black women and the young people are included in the procurement or in the beneficiation of the empowerment targets. So we have liaised with your youth and the student-based solutions, such as the ones at Berkeley, such as the ones at UJ and University of Pretoria, and we're reaching out to many other TVET colleagues as well. First, make them aware about the importance of the Charter Council and the Charter Code, and secondly, make them know what questions and rights they have to enforce when they deal with these issues. Secondly, we liaise with SAWIC and many other to also highlight the importance. We were at the NHBRC Women's Roundtable the other day, into this, raising the awareness, increasing the importance of this sector code. It's going to be work in progress. Only just less than a year that it's been gazetted. We'll start to do quantitative and qualitative measurement after a year so that we can then submit the report to the teacher and the entire industry stakeholders can say of what work is there in the sector.
And do you have lots of outreach programs to reach the correct target audience?
Correct. We have outreach projects together with the Property Charter Council. We reach out to school kids, the grade 9, 10, 11, 12,
yes,
and to make sure that they are first aware about the careers in construction, but also aware about the opportunities there. We also talk to the South African Chamber of Youth in Construction and talk to them about the importance of that. We have our work cut out, but what is more important to us is the verification agencies that do the measurement of the sector. They don't give us a true reflection of what the industry looks like. We continue to scratch the surface. We continue to look for a black cat in a dark room. So we need to make sure that we get those systems right in check so that we avoid the vicious circle of repeating ourselves.
It sounds a lot of hard work there, and I'm sure it's a challenge, Thabo. Listeners, don't go away. We're going to break for an ad break for a few minutes. We'll be back.
Live from 27 Boxes in the heart of Melville, this is brandlive.co.za.
Whether you're an athlete or just going about your day-to-day business, use TurboFreeze on the go for any pain relief or inflammation. It's the #1 pain relief formula. To find out more, log on to our website, www.turbofreeze.co.za.
Hey Bonang, how are you?
Hi Tuli, look so beautiful. Hey, long time no see. What happened to your skin, by the way? The last time I saw you, you had a lot of blemishes and breakouts. It was so terrible, man.
Wow, thanks for that, Benang. Luckily, I discovered DMK. Have you heard of DMK?
DMK? Who are they?
DMK is a paramedical skincare brand that specializes in all skin conditions. Would you like their number?
Yes, please.
I know you're not good at numbers, so let me give you their website address because your skin looks terrible. It's www.dmkskincare.co.za.
Have you ever thought about the power of social media? Social media has the power to make your business grow. Grow! Yeah. Why don't you let us manage your social media? Because our business is to see your business grow. Visit us at www.bstownmedia.co.za.
Harnessing the power of talk radio. Brandlive.co.za.
Welcome back to Shapeshifters. Gregory, the president of the country, recently announced a stimulus package to develop infrastructure in the country. Do you think this will help your program at all?
It definitely will, and we welcome the stimulus packages announced by the president. In fact, a couple of months ago, when there was an indication that Cabinet is going to be having a discussion around the stimulus package, as the Black Business Council in the built environment, we did make a submission to Cabinet and to request Cabinet to ensure that there is a significant allocation of resources towards investment in infrastructure. So we are pleased to see that in fact infrastructure is top of the agenda as far as the stimulus package is concerned. So this will definitely help, and it's 400 billion rands that the president has spoken about that will then be allocated in the medium-term expenditure framework, which is the next 3 years. Now, what we are now awaiting is the detail of that, because the president just announced that the 400 billion rands will be made available. We are yet to understand where that money is going to come from, how the fund is going to be established, what will be the mandate of that fund. We understand from the statement from the president that this will be used to leverage private sector funding, which is what we welcome, because private sector does have resources and is ready to partner with government to ensure that there is significant investment in the infrastructure space. But as the industry, we are now awaiting further details from the presidency as far as this stimulus package is concerned. You will be aware that the construction industry has been in the doldrums for a while. Everybody's now talking about the country going into this technical recession, but I can tell you that the construction industry for the past 4 quarters, if you look at the stats from Statistics South Africa, you'll see that we have been in a recession for 4 consecutive terms. So as an industry, we've been in trouble for some time, and we think that this stimulus package will definitely turn around the fortunes of the industry if it is properly implemented.
That sounds interesting. So this 400 billion rand will be most welcome. You're just waiting for the detail.
Most definitely, we are waiting for the detail. As you know, obviously the government budgeting cycle goes through those 3 years, and that's the MTF period that we look at. And the president has said that this will be made available within that specific time frame. So we are waiting for that statement from the president, but also we are also awaiting more details from the finance minister. He's going to be delivering his MTF policy statement during the course of the month of October. So again, we are waiting for further detail to come out of that statement. As the private sector, we are ready. You will know that we've been losing jobs. We have been losing a lot of companies due to lack of work in the industry and other difficulties that players are facing in this in the sector. So this 400 billion rands is most definitely welcomed. What we need to do is to sit down with government and understand exactly how it is going to be rolled out, which is most important. People need certainty, so we can only provide that certainty once we sit down with government and understand what the issues are around the stimulus package and when is it going to be implemented, the structure of the fund, how the projects are going to be awarded in the market. That is critical for the market to have certainty.
Correct me if I'm wrong. This seems to be a perception amongst the public, the general public. When we tell them there's a slump in the construction industry, they see it as not being true, because they feel that there's malls being built, there are housing complexes being built, there's lots happening, but they can't seem to understand why there's the slump in the industry. Perhaps you can clarify that.
Yeah, I think we need to provide a proper context for that. I mean, it does when you say that the construction industry is in trouble, it doesn't mean that there is no construction taking place at all.
Yes.
Construction is taking place, but the fact of the matter is that we are seeing a reduced number of projects in the market.
Right.
And so when you look at a typical company which will be doing a turnover, say of 100 million rands, when we say that the industry is not doing well, that same company will now be doing a turnover of 10, 15, 20 million rands, meaning that company will be forced to right size, meaning that they will have to fire people because they don't have the same amount of projects that they used to have previously, and so on and so forth. So that's what we mean. So as much as there is construction happening around, people must be aware that it is not at the same level as previously was the case, and as a result, the companies will have to fire people, the companies will have to right size so that they can remain in business and survive. So that is the context in basic terms.
Yes. Okay. Thabo, what do you think of the president's stimulus package? How do you view it?
Look, thanks, Ivan. We obviously welcome any decisive intervention to facilitate and stimulate the growth in our country. Like Gregory said, the construction industry has obviously been the most hit, most affected the past 4 quarters. We have the view that in order to stimulate any economic growth, infrastructure has to be the cornerstone of economic growth. We've seen a number of construction firms shutting down, a number of construction firms downsizing, a number of construction firms filing for business rescue. It is not a situation desirable. If you look at the number of employment opportunities that this industry creates, albeit at a very low semi-skilled level, just above 1.3 million, it is quite a sizable number that is important to create and sustain jobs in this country. So when it comes to intervention, all multi-sectoral stakeholders ensure that they gather their thoughts and gather their efforts around the president's plan. In fact, one of the things we'll do is to have a roundtable in the industry with major and emerging construction industry players to chart a way forward to develop what is called an industry plan. That plan must talk to inclusive growth. That plan must talk to the inclusion of previously disadvantaged individuals, because it's about time that in South Africa involve all citizens and all stakeholders in shaping the outlook of our country and our economy, so that we not hit with retrenchment, but at the same time to avoid the exploitation of vulnerable workers in construction sites and projects. We need to ensure that we bring everyone on board.
Correct. Yes. Gentlemen, the two of you are involved in our conference, and I'm going to start with each of you. So I'm going to start with you, Gregory. You dealing with a panel discussion, New Horizons, the SACPCMP Presidential Forum, and the idea is streamlining development, growth, and transformation in the built environment. You have some very interesting presidents of the VAs that's there. It's ARCASM, it's MBSA, ACPM, the SACPCMP president will be there, as well as most likely the CEO of CISA. What will be some of the discussion points that you will raise, because you're moderating the session?
Well, there's a couple of points that I intend to raise and look forward to some very interesting responses and inputs from the various presidents. But I think the first thing will be to understand what each of those organizations are doing to ensure transformation in the industry.
Correct.
So each and every one of those organizations will be given an opportunity to present to the conference what are the initiatives that they are driving together with their members to ensure that there's transformation in the industry. And also to look at some of the programs that are aimed at developing the industry. So it will be very interesting from that angle to understand exactly, what is it that those organizations are doing in partnership with their members to drive transformation and development. We spoke in the in the past with Masombuka around the issue of youth empowerment. So it will also be interesting to see to what extent are companies actually bringing in the youth that are exiting the higher education space so that they can be given an opportunity to participate meaningfully in the sector. It will also be interesting to listen to organizations as to what are they doing, again in partnership with their membership, to prepare the future workforce of this industry as far as the fourth industrial revolution is concerned. I mean, we're talking about digitization in the construction industry, so we like to understand what are the trends and what are the initiatives that the actual companies in partnership with their member associations are undertaking to ensure that we are ready for the fourth industrial revolution.
Yes, because some jobs in the fourth industrial revolution have not been even thought about yet.
No, most definitely. And I mean, there is that popular saying that, when you look at the industry 10 years from now, some of the existing, opportunities will not be there. Some of the job specifications will not be there. We are already seeing the introduction of machines that are doing bricklaying. We are seeing introduction of machines that are doing plastering, for instance. So definitely we need to be ready for that. As a country, we cannot be left behind.
Correct.
And historically, the construction industry in this country has been one of those pace setters when it comes to innovation in the construction industry. So it will be very interesting to see how far are we in terms of ensuring that we are ready for the fourth industrial revolution, and that we remain competitive globally, because that will also make our companies to remain globally competitive. As you know, our companies play a significant role in terms of infrastructure development globally. We have got some companies that are global players, and so those are companies that understand the need for investment in innovation going forward. So it will be interesting to hear from the role players as to what is it that they are doing to prepare for that.
Oh, great. And Thabo, you are participating in a breakaway session moderated by Advocate Fourie, where you talk about construction sector charter codes, its impact on policy and transformation. I think it'll be just up your street. You can just tell us very briefly, because we're running out of time, very briefly what you hope to talk about in your session.
Thanks, Yuvin. What we'll be highlighting, which is very critical, is the impact and the implications of the new sector code and the dawn that it has created and the future hope that it should facilitate. But we're also going to share with conference attendees that the construction sector code is not the be it and all end of the industry. It is but one of the sector intervention. There are a number of other multifaceted interventions that must happen to facilitate the skills, to facilitate the inclusion, and to facilitate the economic sustainability of the industry. We don't want this transformation sector code to be a hindrance for transformation. It must facilitate the inclusive growth so that we contribute in a bigger scale in the growth of the GDP, in the growth of the economy going forward. But more importantly, we'll also be talking to young people who are the future of this industry. You are the only sector that requires EMEs, the exempted micro enterprises, not to use an affidavit but to use a construction scorecard, and we'll explain in detail why that is important for the skills measurement of the industry.
Yeah. Interesting. We've come to the end of the show, sadly, because it was such an interesting discussion. But gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you, Thabo. Thank you, Gregory. And we hope to see you listeners at the conference. And thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, Evan.
Thank you.
Harnessing the power of talk radio. Brandlive.co.za